In the early 2000s, I had two favourite albums to listen to on my Sony Walkman. One was completely appropriate for my age at the time, and the other was Blink-182's Enema of the State. However, I apparently peaked in the early 2000s at the age of 10, and my taste in music has simply just not changed. So I'm going to do what nobody else has probably ever done, and probably for good reason, and compare Blink-182's Enema of the State with the Digimon Movie Soundtrack, track by track. I was honestly surprised to learn that a non-zero amount of people wanted me to actually talk about Blink-182 and Digimon. Again, I love both of these albums, and like that's not a joke. I simply just love Blink-182, but I also love Digimon. And of course, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that, and if you've looked at the background here, you'll know that Digimon is a pretty big part of my life. But I also absolutely love Blink-182, and they're actually my favourite band. I finally saw them live just February, so a month ago, and it was probably the best night of my life, which I don't know, is that kind of a bit sad? I don't know, it was a great night. I went with a friend of mine, a really close friend of mine, and while we were there, we were talking about other albums and other artists that we like, and he asked me, hey, do you like ska punk? And I said, yeah, buddy, I sure do. And that's kind of what has inspired me to make this video and talk about very great albums that I both love, but I don't think they could be more different from one another. So the other album being Enema of the State. Of course, you probably heard songs from this, maybe not so much this one. However, I was surprised to learn that the fans of Digimon and the fans of Blink-182 were not just two separate circles. There was actually some overlap, and maybe they were just one whole circle. So I'm not going to be sampling any of the songs in this just because copyright reasons, but if there's a song that I talk about and I really like it, I recommend looking it up. Spotify, YouTube Music, what have you. It's very much likely all there. So this is kind of like an April Fool's video, but also kind of not, because the joke is just I like Blink-182 and Digimon, so that's not really a joke. My original April Fool's idea, I kind of didn't want to do that because yay, body image issues, so I didn't do that. That would have been probably much funnier, and I'm doing kind of like a serious but a little bit different, and honestly, if this video flops, I will not be surprised. Maybe I'll be the fool for flopping a video, but hey, I'm talking about two things that I absolutely adore. So before I go into it and compare these wonderful albums, I'm not a musician. I'm simply just like, I wouldn't even call myself a music enjoyer, because these are probably the only two albums I actually have ever listened to. I don't know much about music. I just I listen to whatever I can hear. I like Blink-182 and I like Digimon. So don't expect any in-depth like analysis on music or lyrics or anything. It's just going to be like, I like this song. It sounds good. So keep that in mind, and also opinions are subjective. If I like a song, or the fact that I like the Digimon Movie Soundtrack, if that upsets you, I'm sorry, that's just, I like this thing. I like things, and it is okay for you to not like the things that I like. Totally cool. Do not roast me for liking something that is just harmless, like this entire soundtrack to me is a fantastic timepiece, because yeah, Smash Mouth's All-Star, Fatboy Slim, it's a great timepiece of the early 2000s. So with that out of the way, let's look at the albums and kind of compare them track by track. I'll of course be looking at the track list for the Australian release, which has various songs from their live show in LA. So apparently that's not on all of the albums of Enema of the State, just the Australian one, so that's cool and fun. There's also 16 tracks on this and 17 tracks including the hidden ones, so I'm not going to be including track 13 because it's the Digimon opening and it is kind of the same sort of thing as the Digirap. The Digirap is like a remix version. So in any case, let's compare them. So I'm pretty sure that I'm kind of like going to be putting each song against each other, so I'm pretty sure going into this that I'm going to probably like more Blink-182 songs than songs from the Digimon Movie Soundtrack, just because I really like Blink-182. But anyway, so first song on Enema of the State is Dumpweed, which is a great song. It's one of those songs where you can kind of see that these blokes were in like that they were 20 when they wrote a lot of these songs, and that's one of the songs that definitely is like, oh yeah, they were 20, and it is up against Digirap. So gonna give it to Dumpweed there, but it's actually pretty close. Like, I went from hating the Digirap as a kid or like as an edgy teenager, but as an adult, I'm like, it's kind of like a product of its time, and that's, again, a lot of the Digimon movie in general is a product of its time. So yeah, it's just kind of a thing, and the Pokemon movie had the Pokerap, so the Digimon movie had to have the Digirap. The second song on Digimon the movies, the soundtrack, is All Star by Smash Mouth, and it's against Don't Leave Me. And yeah, again, probably gonna have to give it to Blink-182. It is, yeah, I'm gonna give it to Blink-182, but this one's really close. This one's just like, in my mind, I'm like internally flip-flopping of, do I give it to All Star? Do I give it to Don't Leave Me? I'm going to give it to Enema of the State here. Then we have song 3, which is Aliens Exist. It's against the Rockefeller Skank, which is the song that everyone calls Funk Soul Brother, but that's not his name. The Fatboy Slim song. And yeah, gonna give it to Aliens Exist. That's one of my favourite Blink songs. It's actually a song that I heard live when they played it last month. So yeah, just a really great song there. So yeah, as you can see so far, Blink-182 is winning the battle of the bands, I guess. The battle of the music that I liked as a kid and still like now. Track 4, Going Away to College. Great song. It's against Kids in America. Again, super close. Going to give it to, yeah. Something about Blink-182 is you can always tell if it's a Tom song or if it's a Mark song by how serious it is or how much it's about, like, you know, the taboo things. If it's a Mark song, it's going to be like maybe like a serious kind of pseudo-serious love song, serious considering they're in their 20s, and kind of that their whole thing is, their whole brand is immaturity in a funny way. So this is kind of like an almost romantic song comparatively, and there's another song that's on this called Wendy Clear, which is my other favourite. Actually, it is probably my favourite, and that's a Mark song. It's more romantic, more serious, like less kind of taboo humour, but all the Tom songs are like just, you know, things like Dumpweed or Dysentery Gary or Mutt are just songs that are about taboo things. So, and also, this is an all-ages channel, so I'll try not to actually talk about what these songs are about, because some of them are a little bit not suitable for the age group where I was listening to this album. Anyway, track number 5 on Digimon Movie Soundtrack is Hey Digimon, which this is, besides the Digirap, this is the first song on this album that was kind of like unique to the Digimon movie, and it was also in the series itself, so this is kind of like an original song. So it's Hey Digimon, and it's up against track number 5, What's My Age Again? Again, I'm going to give it to Blink-182. What's My Age Again? A great song, and it kind of makes you feel old when you realise you've been singing along to the line, Nobody Likes You When You're 23, when you were a kid, when you were like, you know, you're like, oh yeah, no one likes you when you're 23, yeah! When you're like a young kid, and then you turn 23 and you're like, ha ha ha, just like the Blink song. And then you're now in your early 30s and you're kind of like, oh, I'm old, but these guys are older now. So, What's My Age Again? Great song. Also has the line, late night, come home, work sucks, I know. Something that I was singing along to at the top of my lungs as a kid, but I didn't know. I didn't know at all, but now I know. So, What's My Age Again? It's going to beat Hey Digimon, as nostalgic as the song Hey Digimon is to me, and how much I love it. Yeah, it's not going to beat What's My Age Again. See, I told you, the Blink songs are better no matter how much I love the Digimon Movie Soundtrack. So, next song, track 6, is Dysentery Gary, which is another song they play at the live show. and it was kind of funny. They're like, yeah, we definitely wrote this song when we were 20 because when a girl doesn't like you, just call her mum a whore. That's the best thing to do. Then that's sort of like the 20-year-old mindset. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. I'm glad they can kind of laugh at themselves, still play the songs that they wrote when they were 20, but also still say, yeah, we were definitely 20 when we wrote that song. And yeah, it's a good song, and it is against 1 week. That is really, really rough. I'm just playing through both songs in my head because you can't copyright claim my brain, and that's a really hard one. I'm going to give it to 1 week. Surprisingly enough, I'm going to give it to 1 week. But that's rough. Track 7, Adam's song. Oh, it's a really good one. It's a really hopeful one. It's a Mark song, so it's one of the more serious songs that Blink have done. And it is against the impression that I get, which is another really, really rough choice. Adam's song was kind of like my woe is me, I'm 15, life is so hard, I'm going to put this song on and listen to it and on repeat. And because I was on MSN back then, and MSN showed what song you were listening to if you were listening to something, and people could always tell if I was in one of my woe is me moods. And because it was like the late 2000s, all I really had on my computer was Solitaire, because my internet wasn't too good, so all I could do was play Solitaire. So I'd play Solitaire and listen to Adam's song on repeat. So I'm gonna give it to Adam's song just because of the sheer amount of nostalgia for that song. Next, track 8, All the Small Things, and that's also a really good song. It is up against All My Best Friends Are Metalheads. Oh, that's close. I'm gonna give it to All the Small Things. It's very close though. Very close. Very, very close. Next song is the worst song on the soundtrack. Not that it's bad, it's just that I feel like something has to be the worst, something has to be the best, and something has to be the worst. And that is track number 9, the Party Song. It's not that it's a bad song. It's just that it's not as good as the other ones. It's still a good song, but it's also one that I was listening to the entire soundtrack again because I just kind of do that all the time. So I don't know why I'm saying it like it's something that I did, like, oh, I just did that randomly. No, I do that all the time, but more recently. And I honestly forgot that the Party Song was on this album. It's a good song. It's fine. It's catchy, but it is it's probably the worst song on the album. But again, it's not bad. It's just because something has to be the worst, and it just so happens to be the Party Song. However, it's against Runaround, which I used to love all the original Digimon music from the Digimon Movie Soundtrack as a kid, like a lot. And that was one of my favourite. I was like, oh yeah, we'll run around. It was always really catchy. It was like the kids have got a new evolution, they're winning. That was that song in 02. It was a really good song. But I don't... as an adult, I don't think I listen to the original songs from the Digimon movie as much as I do listen to the other songs like the Ska Punk songs or 1 Week or the Rockefeller Skank or All Star. But I do still like Runaround. I'm gonna give it to Runaround, but yeah, it is kind of close. So Digimon have 2 points, and the rest so far are to Blink-182. Next one is Mutt, which was in American Pie, I believe. It has a line in the song which I would scream at the top of my lungs, but I didn't know what it meant until embarrassingly recently. And I guess I don't... It's an all ages video, but it's sort of like a subtle enough reference that if you know, if you don't, you're kind of be like, that's a weird line in a weird song. So the line is, he took his seat off his own bike because of the way that it felt. So I didn't know what that meant until, a few years ago I was listening to it. I was like, oh, I love Blink-182, and then I actually listened, and I was tried to, like, think about what that could mean, and I was like, oh dear. I was screaming that line at the top of my lungs. I just thought it was a funny little line. I didn't think about it. Now I think about it. And, it's a good song. It's, in the first American Pie. And Blink-182 were actually in that movie as well. So that is track 10, which is up against Nowhere Near, which is one of the 2 or 3 forgettable songs on the Digimon Movie album, so it's going to go to Mutt. Next is number 11, which is Wendy Clear, and I can tell you whatever it's up against, Wendy Clear will win. It's up against the other forgettable song, Spill. Again, Nowhere Near and Spill, I think, were just songs they played during the credits. I don't know if they were made for the Digimon movie, but I've never heard them anywhere else. So, yeah, it's going to Wendy Clear, obviously. Second is Anthem. Now we have 3 anthems, but this is the first anthem, so that's track 12, which is up against Here We Go, and that's close. Here We Go is probably one of my favourite of the original songs from the Digimon Movie soundtrack. It's the song that they also use in 02 when they go to the digital world. It's kind of like the background music there. Really catchy. I kind of want to give it to Here We Go just because of the nostalgia there. But Anthem is a really good song. And I feel like they'll take all my Blink-182 stuff away from me if I don't choose Anthem. But I like to live dangerously, so I'm going to pick Here We Go, just out of nostalgia. Now, track 13 on the Digimon Movie soundtrack is the Digimon theme, so I'm just not including that because they can both have 16 tracks, so it's equal. So instead, we're skipping to track 14, which is Change Into Power, which was used in the Digimon movie credits, I believe, and then once in the Digimon anime in like a Puppetmon episode, I think. And never used again. Or maybe Metal Edamon, I can't remember what the context was, but it was used once. It's not a good song. It's up against Pathetic Live in LA. I'm going to give it to Pathetic Live in LA. It's not a good song from the Digimon. Change Into Power, Nowhere Near, and Spill are probably like the more unforgettable ones on that album, and they're just used in the credits, so that's probably why they're so forgettable. Next is track 14, which is Untitled, Live in LA. I believe this one is also typically called So Sorry It's Over, and it's the one that's I've also seen live. It was really good. It's about like their old drummer who they kicked out. So that's a great song. It's up against Let's Kick It Up, which is, that's a pretty catchy song. I'm going to have to give it to Blink on this one. Then there's track 15, which is Josie, which is, I'm trying to remember it's one that I think is typically also called My Girlfriend, but it's officially called Josie. I was trying to remember what the other name was, and that's the Live in LA one. And this is probably the first Blink song that I heard. My parents had this compilation CD. It was kind of like So Fresh, but with more indie tracks, and I think it was before So Fresh, which, by the way, they still sell So Fresh, which is unusual to me. Anyway, so it had like a bunch of things like the Dandy Warhols, like the Whitlams. You're beginning to see where my taste of music came from, and of course Blink-182. I believe it was the 4th album, which had Josie. It also had Teenage Dirtbag. So yeah, basically a bunch of music that I ended up loving originated from these compilation soundtracks called Indie 2000, I believe they were called. So yeah, that was like the first Blink song that I heard, I'm pretty sure. So that's the Live in LA version, track 15, and it's up against Going Digital, which is really rough. That's another one of the songs that is one of the nostalgic ones. It's one of the Digimon original songs. But I have to give it to Josie. And then lastly, we have the other really, really unforgettable song on the Digimon Movie soundtrack, Strange, which is, again, just in the credits, I'm fairly certain, of the Digimon movie. And of course, tracks 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 are actually hidden tracks, which I hate. It was so... The reason why I had to like look on my screen for the track listing is because they don't have the hidden tracks on this. They only list it up to track 12, which is Here We Go, and not the hidden tracks, which are those 5 there. Weird choice. It was kind of like something that you were... Because it was before CD players on a computer, and, you know, also when there were CD players on the computer, because they don't have them anymore, where you would just be listening to a song, and then you'd think that it's over. They'd put like a bunch of silence, and that's why there's a bunch of silence at the end of Here We Go on the Digimon Movie Soundtrack, which is really annoying, because it's just like, you have to like cut it if you want to put it on an MP3 player or whatever. At least that's a problem that we had back then. So yeah, there was like this bunch of silence, and all of a sudden it'll start up with the Digimon theme, which is kind of a funny choice because the first song on the album is the Digirap, so it's going to give you part of that, like, John Mulaney puts What's New Pussycat into the jukebox like 20 times, and you're not sure whether or not someone has put in What's New Pussycat 20 times, or if it's just a really long song, and then there's one, It's Not Unusual. It's that kind of thing, where it's similar enough where you're kind of like, oh, the album's started again, but then you realise it's not the Digirap, and then you've got another 5 songs after that one. So yeah, it's kind of one of those things that you don't really see anymore because everyone hated it anyway, but it was kind of like a surprise because you bought it for 12 songs and you got 17 instead. But, yeah, that's the, so, did I ever say that, oh yeah, so Strange is up against Aliens Exist Live in LA. Aliens Exist, again, one of my favourite songs from Blink. It's obviously going to go to Aliens Exist because it is, again, against one of the more forgettable songs on the album. So, yeah, Digimon Movie got 2 points against Blink-182, which got 14, because we only did 16 tracks. So, yeah, obviously Blink-182 was going to win because I like the songs on the album more, but I'm actually surprised that I gave it to Digimon at all. Again, they are both my favourite albums. It's kind of funny how different they are, but yeah, this is kind of like, this was more or less a joke video, but also I wanted an excuse to talk about Blink-182 on my Digimon-related channel. If you watch this whole thing and you don't know what Digimon is, because you're just like, hey, Blink-182 album review, I'm so sorry, this was probably very embarrassing. Again, it is sort of like a pseudo-April Fool's video, whatever. But in any case, those are my thoughts about these 2 albums. If you haven't listened to any Blink-182 song before, but you watched this entire video, I'm sorry, that was... None of what I said probably made sense, but if you have to listen to Blink-182 songs, I definitely recommend Wendy Clear, because that's my favourite. Aliens Exist is a good one. Yeah, those 2 are probably my top recommendations. Going Away to College, again, also a really good one. So yeah, check out Blink-182, and of course, if you are a Blink-182 fan and you watch this whole thing, I'm so sorry. But watch Digimon, I guess. It's got not much in common with Blink-182, but maybe it should. But in any case, those are my thoughts about this. Let me know if what album you prefer, which songs you prefer. Let me know all that and more in the comment section below. Like this video for... I thought this was going to be like a 6-minute video. I spoke about this for over 20 minutes. That's a surprise, so like this video for that. And of course, subscribe if you haven't already. If you have subscribed, tell your friends, tell your neighbours, tell your friends who like music, I suppose. And of course, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!